Hi, this is Cheryl St.Pierre, and this is a Beebeecraft video. And the reason it's Beebeecraft is we are using these stunning little heart beads that I have received from them. And their measurements are, and I'll repeat it again later, they're 7 millimeters long and 6.5 millimeters wide, and they're flat with an edge, and they're 2.5 millimeters thick. So sometimes in wire wrapping designs, the flat edge can be a little problematic. Usually pillow edge beads seem to work better. That's where it's rounded. But this design works very well with the flat edge. And the reason that is the swirl I have on top lifts up the wire so that it's level with the bead, as you can see there. So if you have some flat hearts that you don't know what to do with, or actually these are really tiny hearts too, so they really work well in this design, but a little bit larger would work as well. But these, just so you know, these are fantastic beads. Another thing that's really special about these beads, most shell beads have really tiny holes, and it's really hard to do wire work with that as well, because you can't get a thick enough wire through it. These have a nice size hole, and I'm able to get my 20 gauge wire through them pretty good. So that's a plus too. So these are wonderful beads. Thank you, Beebeecraft. Good quality, very pretty. Okay, so I believe what else I need to mention? Yes, if you are interested in doing package opening with Beebeecraft, there is a link in the description where you can check it out and try it for yourself. Lots of fun, and I think we're ready to start. Before we start, I got one more thing I wanted to show you. These look excellent in a shorter variety too. Isn't that cute? And if you did a stud your wire instead, they'd be perfect for a little girl. So, well, and every day. And this pink is such a neutral color that you could almost wear it with any outfit. It's just perfect. You know, go-to earring. There you go. So let's get started. Okay, so this is for your screenshot for the supplies. What you're going to need is 6 of the Beebeecraft beads, the heart beads. Their dimensions are 7 by 6.5 by 2.5 millimeters. And you're going to need your wires of choice. 6 pieces of 20 gauge, which is, oh, that's a typo. It's 0.81 millimeters, around 0.8 millimeters, whatever you find close to that, of dead soft wire. I'm using raw copper. And you're going to need 6 lengths, which are 4.5 inches long, which is 11.25 centimeters. And for tools, you're going to need, it's a pretty basic set of tools for this. Rulers with metric. Now, if you don't have a ruler with metric, I'll give you another option of a measurement that you can use later on in the tutorial. You'll need your chain nose pliers and your round nose pliers and some flush cutters. So that's all you need for supplies. Okay, so I gotta quit the umming. That bothers me when I do that. What I want you to do is take your ruler, and with 2 of your lengths of wire, you want to measure 1 centimeter. So that's 1 centimeter there, and give it a bend. Now, if you don't have metric, it'll be a little bit longer, so it'll make it a little bit larger, a spiral at the base of your earring. But I mean, it's going to be minimal, so you could do 1/2 inch if you don't have the metric. I know that 1 centimeter is a good length for this. So what we are doing is we're just making 2 head pins with the spirals on the bottom. So that's what I'm just going to show you once, and then you can go ahead and make your second one. So I know I've explained this 100 times, but I've got to explain it for those that have never done this before. So I want you to take your chain nose pliers and do about a half of a curl there. And then we're going to squish it down and then squish it back, because we're trying to make a little bud. Let's see if I can get that little bud like that to start the spiral with. And then once you have that, then you can grab it and wrap the wire around. And sometimes you have to, I don't have to, but I'm just showing, sometimes you're going to get air spaces and you just squish it together as you go. See, there's an air space. And I'm just going to squish that together like this. It's easier on the hands that way. And you're just going to, the reason why we do the pre-measuring is it's going to make the spiral a pretty consistent size for your head pins. And the bend makes it so that your spiral is centered at the base of your head pin. Because you could just go ahead and make your spiral and then bend it afterwards, but it's harder to do. It's easier if you do it this way. And that's all there's to it. So you need to make 2 of those. Now I'm going to give you an option that if you don't want to make those, you can do something else. You can just do you can do them all like the rest of the links. And I'll show that later. So go ahead and make 2 of your head pins. Okay, so after you've made your head pins, your wire might be really bent up close to the spiral. So I just want you to take your pliers and squeeze it to straighten it. Now the bead's going to be on there, so we're just going to do the first little bit. You don't want to go all the way up. That's all you should need to do anyways. Okay. And the beads that we're using have a 0.8 millimeter hole, and which is the exact size of the wire. And so I was iffy if I could use 20 gauge, but the first the first 8 beads I took off of the, well, this one's really loose, so it's bigger than a 0.8. So, but I have had ones that are really snug, but I've been able to get each and every one on so far. I would imagine you're going to run into a couple that won't fit your wire. But then, you know, you could always use a smaller gauge wire. You could use a 21 gauge or a 22 gauge, and it would work for these earrings as well. Okay, so you're putting on your bead. And then the next step is, and I just want you to pay attention to which way the spiral's going, because we're going to do the forwards and backwards loops on top, and we're going to do 1 of each with the spirals. And you want the spiral at the starting point to be facing the exact same way both times, because when we do the reverse loop, it's automatically going to work it so you're working on the back, and then the spiral will reverse itself as well. So always start both with the same. Okay, so I want to do it with approximately 3 wraps. We want to be consistent with both because we want them to be the same size. And I'm on my pliers, it's approximately 3 wraps from this position. Sometimes I get 4 or 3.5, but it's approximate there. So yeah, the consistency is what's important. And for all of your hearts, you need to be consistent. And then your favorite size loop, and you need to be consistent with that too. Because if you're not consistent, your earrings could end up being different lengths. And when you're consistent, it tends to work out really well. And then we want to do the wraps as neat as we can. So this is a forward facing one, and we want the wire, oh, I'm sorry, I must have been out of screen. We want the wire to be on top, if that makes sense. Okay, so this is the front, and I want the wire on the top part, so it's going to the left side. Next, we're gonna do a loop, and then we're going to come around the bead, and we want to, it's kind of like a heart. I find myself keep going out of screen. Hopefully I'm not doing it too much. We want to try and make the wire kind of go parallel to the edge of the heart, and that's going to be more pleasing to the eye. And if you look, this is kind of like half of a heart. So even though you're not really registering that when you look at it, your subconscious does, and it just makes it pleasing to the eye because we're working with hearts. Now, I want you to wrap around the base of your coil, around the front, and then coming up, going around the back and to the front again. And if your coil bends a little bit, don't worry about it. We can fix that. And I want you to take your snips and just give it a snip. We want to make the wire touching the other wire, so there's nothing we have to sand, and there's going to be no sharp edges. So it's just snipped right in there, and then I'm going to crimp it down like that. And then there's nothing that can poke or hurt anybody. And now you want to make sure that your loop is parallel to both loops are parallel is what I'm saying. And then, okay, so then we want to have that to be parallel to, and there is the first one. So the next one we're going to be doing in reverse. So let's get that started. So I've got my second head pin here, putting on a bead. There we go. That one's a little bit tighter. So this one we're going to be doing reverse, but I still want the coil to look this way. So you'll see what I mean by it'll flip itself over. Okay, so for the reverse coil, all it takes is, we normally wrap the wire on this side of your heart. With reverse, we want it on the opposite side. Okay, now for comfort's sake, I'm flipping it around, and you'll see that the coil flipped too, but this is the front. So I'm wrapping as neat as I can. And the heart twisted. And so what's so nice about this design is it keeps your heart in place. And then the loop that's on top of here makes it come forward so that it's not going to fight with the edge of your bead. See, you could do this with a puff heart too, but this design is wonderful for those flat edge hearts. Sometimes it's hard to work those hearts in a design, and this design is very forgiving for that edge. Okay, so I'm only going to explain how to do the reverse once, just so I'm not repeating myself too much on the video, because I know I tend to repeat things. Okay, so there's the two bottom hearts. Now, bear in mind that if you feel uncomfortable doing the spirals, you can still make a beautiful set of earrings with using all of the next loops. And you'll see what I mean in a little bit. Okay, so I'm just going to show you it once with a normal loop. And then I want you to make 2 of them. If you've done the spirals already, 2 of them. If not, you can make, if you don't want to do the spirals, make 3 of them. And then 3 with the backwards loop. Okay, so to start with, we're going to take your wire and we're going to make a loop. We're making a head pin. We're going to start off making a P-loop head pin. That's what a P-loop head pin would be like. But we don't want that. We want an I-loop head pin. So you're going to put your pliers back in there and you're going to bend it like that so that it's centered and it becomes an I-loop. And now, see how it's wonky bent? I'm going to fix that just like that. Now it's fixed. Now it's straight. Okay, so the next thing you're going to do is it's almost identical, but we've got the loop instead of the spiral. And this one's really tight, so I'm actually going to take my pliers and hold the wire to pull the bead down. But it works. It's not that difficult. And we will want the loop facing up and down. Now, if you want it to replace the spiral, you just flip it and make it side to side and use it that way as a spiral instead. How simple is that? That's perfect, right? Okay, so now the procedure is exactly the same. Get your favorite distance, make your loop. Wrap it neatly. End with it on top. And now you want to try and make all your little curls up there the same size. I forgot to mention that with the other one. And they're pretty much the same size. So that's what you want to do. It's always consistency, right? And you can decide which, if you've got one side that's nicer than the other, flip it to the side you think is nicest. Make it parallel to the edge of the heart. And wrap around the loop. And snip it off, crimp it in. Okay, and then adjust your loops if they need be. See, this one really went off, so I just need to twist. I'm going to support this curl with my thumb and twist so that they're parallel. Not quite, no, I'm trying to get in, there we go. Not quite parallel yet. There we go. And I want this loop going perpendicular and it twisted. So, and then when I do that, it might twist the top again, but I just have to verify. And a little bit, not bad. Okay, so you need to do 2 frontward with the frontwards loops so that it is on the right hand side, and then 2 with the backwards loop where it's on the left hand side. Okay, so once you've got that done, you should pause and do that, and then we'll continue from there. Okay, so I'm making one of my reverse loops, And I just wanted to do a little bit of problem solving with you. Sometimes your loop goes off center. And what I want you to do, this one was, and I should have, so it was like this, which is off center, or it would make it too big. So then I want you to push it with your fingers, or preferably with your fingers. If you have to use your pliers, use your pliers. And to just, and I noticed that my wire's kind of kinky here. So I'm just going to, that can be problematic. I'm going to gently straighten it a little bit and then kind of tease it with my finger to give it just a gentle curve so that it looks more natural. And just sometimes they just don't want to cooperate. And if it really gets bad, then you just cut it off and start all over again. But let's see how that looks. I'm not really happy with that. I'm going to try one more time to fix it. And if it doesn't work that time, then I will cut it off and start over. Okay, let's see how that goes. And just going to push this over. And sometimes you need to straighten out the wire there too. I think it bent a little bit on me. So I'm just going to straighten that out. Tease this a little bit more. And that's how I break my nails so badly all the time. It's not bad. I'm going to compare it to the other one. It's okay. It works. But just so you know, it doesn't always work 100%. So if you're needing to do it again once or twice, that's okay. It happens. And sometimes a wire has a mind of its own and it just doesn't want to work. Okay, now I'm going to crimp it in. Okay, there. And I have all my links done now. So I'm going to take one of my regular links and just demonstrate how you would, if you didn't want to use a spiral, how you would change it to one of these to be the bottom. If you did 6 of these, all you do is just make that so it's going the same direction as the top, and then you have a loop at the bottom instead of a spiral. And it's still pretty. I just personally prefer the spiral, and I can make them so it's not an issue. But not everybody likes making those spirals. So if you can get away without it, there you go. Okay, so now it's just time to assemble it, which, so your bottom is your spiral. So we'll start with that. That's the front. Make sure that it looks all right. Do any last minute adjustments that you need to do. That's a little bit off, so I'm straightening that out. Okay, so that's the bottom. I'm gonna take the 2 other links that are going in the same direction, because we're doing like that. You know, if you wanted to, you could switch it up and you could alternate and go like that. That would be your choice, because then it kind of does a swirl. But I'm doing it where they're all the same. So you can do that variation. So you just open the link to the side, put on your other heart, and close it up. So I'm not going to assemble it all in front of you. I'm going to pause it and do it so that I'm not boring you. I'll be right back. Okay, so I have them all put together for both of them. So the next step would be to double check to make sure everything's straight so that they hang nice. And all you have to do is just, you know, make sure that loop is parallel. And these loops, when you open and close them, can sometimes go sideways. So you just want to put your pliers on them and just straighten them out. And then make sure your spiral, if you're using a spiral, or your loop is facing the right way as well, just to give it that finished look. See if I can get it to get in focus. That finished look where everything sits straight. And see, it's sitting nice and straight, so it's going to look proper once it's hanging. And the next step after that is to put your ear wires on. Okay, so I have mine all straightened and ear wires on. And again, I'm going to do another check to make sure they're sitting straight, because sometimes your ear wires can get bent on you, and this one is. So I'm just going to straighten that out. And now they hang. Gotta stop swinging. Yes. Good job. Okay. And those are the chained hearts. Aren't they pretty? Well, thank you for joining me in this video. And if you like this video, please press like. Give me a comment. All the comments I can get, I'll take. And God bless. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.